Yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back for some more Q&A, where I am going to be attempting to answer your catamaran sailing questions. Not attempting, going to be actually answering them. Just want to clear that up right now. Yeah, I'm coming from Vasiliki on the Greek island of Lefkos, where the season has finished, but it's still some pretty decent sunshine about, but not so much in the wind department these days. So, but having said that, I have got some new videos coming soon. The next one on Sunday this week. So keep an eye out for that. So if you're new to these events, then if you have got a question that you'd like answering on the topic of catamaran sailing, if you're lucky enough to be watching live, then of course put it in the live chat. But if you're watching this later on, then do put any questions in the comments section, and I will answer your questions in next week's Q&A session, which is always at 6:30 on a Friday Greek time, which I know is not particularly useful if you happen to be in Australia, but you know, just got to do what I can to make things happen. That's what we're doing. So as always, I've got some pre-loaded questions that people have put in the previous comment sections, which we'll be coming on to. I'm just going to check in with who's checking in. We've got Cux Ollie on board, I believe somewhere in Germany. Have a nice day to everybody. Nice to have you on board. And as always in Clearwater, Florida, Lee is with us in the live chat. Great to have you with us, Lee. Mark and Janet are with us as well in Ohio. Benny's tuning in from Sweden. Says hello to the community. Great to have you with us, Benny. Jesse's with us in New York. Good day to all. Yeah, it's kind of almost like an exercise in time travel, because I know for a lot of you it is first thing in the morning, or if anybody is watching in perhaps Japan or New Zealand, then it is sort of middle of the night. We got Martin on board in Germany, and Benedetto in Italy is with us. Hans is here in a misty Germany. And I think on that note, let's get into our first preloaded question. And this one is coming from Parker, who's on Long Island, New York. He's got Hobie 16. And I believe this is quite a, I don't believe, I know that this is a pretty common thing that happens with well-used Hobie 16s. Would it happen with anything else? Well, anything else which has a similar kind of fitting. If this is the bow of the boat looking from above, and then at the front of the bow, you've got the hole where the bow tang goes into. So if we're looking from above, this is our gunnel, and then this is the hull. So the bow tang would, it's a fitting that looks something like that, and it bolts through this kind of lip like this, and then the bridle wires attach onto here to hold the mast up. But what happens, two things happen quite regularly. One is that this this hole wears, and like it might have started at that sort of size, and over time it'll probably wear more at the back, you'd think, back and the inside. So if this is the way that the wire goes, it wears more this way. And then the other thing that happens to this hole that we've got is cracking on the top, which spreads out in every direction. Is what is the then chances are that this is going to be more of a cosmetic cracking. It's unlikely it'll be cracking all the way through the hull, but still we want to do something about it. So with this cracking, what we should do is rub it down with some sandpaper until we've got so that the cracking is no longer there, basically. Because all of that cracking, the material, the gel coat, which is bordering those cracks, is going to be basically loose material. So before we start doing any sort of repair, we want to get rid of any loose material. So rub it all down until we've got any loose material gone. And then we can start doing something about it. And then either way, we're into sort of similar territory. And so if the hole is a bit too big as well, so that the bolt that goes through can actually move around, then I would say, if it was me, what I would do is then just completely fill the hole with some epoxy, which has been strengthened and thickened using micro bubbles. That's the very fine powder, and some chopped strand fiberglass, just some chopped strands. Make a mix of that, and then we're going to fill the hole, making sure that there's absolutely no air bubbles in there or anything. So really poking it with something pokey to make sure there's no air bubbles, so it's as compressed in there as possible to completely fill the hole. And if we have had this cracking on top, I would also use the same material because it's only going to be a very small amount of this kind of epoxy mix, and you might as well use it to fill in the top of the deck there as well. And then once it's set, we'll then re-drill through the epoxy that we've just put in, and then obviously the right size for the bolt that goes through, and then off we go. We can just put the bow tang back in and we're good to go. Of course, you could finish it a bit nicer with some gel coat filler on top, or you could paint it just to make it look nice after you've filled it. And then one of the reasons why this happens, so that's pretty much the repair, but one of the reasons why this happens is because it's often neglected, the tightness of this bolt that goes through the bow of the boat. And if it's allowed to move forwards and backwards or side to side, then it is going to wear. And some of that wear is actually, in fact, a lot of that wear is going to come from when the boat is sitting on land, no sails up, and perhaps there's a good bit of wind, like overnight or something, when you're not using the boat. The mast's quite likely to move around a bit, which means this bolt is going to be moving within the hole, which means it's going to wear the hole. So make sure that that bolt going through there, the nut and bolt, is as tight as possible, of course, with the fitting pointing in the right direction. So the fitting would want to be pointing towards the center of the bridle wires, so that it's it doesn't have to be kind of really forced round. So that is what I would say on that specific repair. I hope that is helpful. Of course, especially in America, where they seem to have everything, there are many materials that could be used to do the same job that I'm doing with the epoxy. And I dare say a lot of these materials are epoxy based. So Parker mentioned a material called Marine Tex. I'm sure a lot of you in America have heard of this material, but just the strongest stuff that you can find, I think, is the right stuff for the job. There we go. All right, so who else is checking in? We have got Martin25 checking in. I think we might have said hello to Martin25 already. He's in Germany. Then we've got RJ Fleet, who is his home pitch is Lake Benton, Minnesota, USA. He says it's getting cold, but still able to sail there. Great stuff. Okay, we've got Hanny on board. Nice to have you with us, Hanny. Hanny is, I would guess, in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands at this time. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Philip's with us in Ireland. But he says, oh, sailing season's over, but Thailand beckons in December. Very nice. Yeah, I'm actually going to be packing my bags for a week away, a week of coaching, in fact. Start of December, I'm going to be heading to Egypt, no less, to do some coaching there. So very much looking forward to that, having never been to that neck of the woods. While I'm there, of course, I'm going to be doing my best to get some filming done as well, so that it's kind of like taking the Joyrider TV community with me to Egypt. Nice. All right. Jochen is with us as well. Hello, Jochen. Great to have you on board. Yeah, so I'm going to be completely honest with you. I haven't got so much in the preloaded tank for this one. So the next one is from Iggy 1972, who says, could you have a look at the newly, I think it's quite a new design of boat. It's called the RS Cat 12. Now, it's a, what's the material called? Is it polypropylene, polythene, plastic, I generally call it. Part of what I would call formula plastic boat, aimed at kids, beginners, people who want a very simple boat, which is very durable. That's what you get with these plastic boats. They are extremely durable and will last for a very long time. And that the actual hulls, in theory, would be with zero maintenance, which is a great feature. Now, the shape of the RS Cat 12 is very much like that. No, this isn't upside down. This is deliberate that I've put it that way up. And then the mast would... Right, we're going the other way. The mast would be kind of like that. As standard, the RS Cat 12 has got a masthead float. And I had a look on the website and on their promotional video to see what I thought it would be like, having never sailed one, because here in Greece, it's not so easy just to pop out and find various different boats to have a go on. Whereas I think if I was in Germany or Holland or Belgium even, or France, for sure, or maybe even just Italy, just across the water, or Spain, or the UK, anywhere but Greece, in fact, be much easier to find various different types of boat and try to persuade the owner to let me have a spin. But instead, for this instance, I've looked it up. So Iggy says, what do you guess regarding the handler on the water and on the beach? Yeah, so firstly, or actually, let's go in order of actually going sailing. So he did mention taking it apart and building the boat. So the construction of the boat is basically in, can I illustrate this? In the hull, like here where the front beam goes, it's a bit like the Dart 18 was the first boat to do this sort of construction, I'm pretty sure, where if this is the hull, you've basically got a hole in the hull, and then the beam, we're going 3D here, the beam slots in to that hole. And that's the same for the front and the back beam. And from the pictures, I didn't see any evidence of there being anything that clamps it together. So all of the structural integrity, everything that pulls the boat together is basically the trampoline. So you've got the beams in here, and the thing that stops it from coming outwards is the fact that the trampoline is holding the whole thing together, which would mean the actual assembly of this boat would be very quick. I would say probably once you've done it a few times, you could probably have it from its component parts to ready to go in about 20 minutes, I would think. So very quick indeed. Yeah, so what else? So we've got that. The rudder system on the RS Cat 12 is exactly the same rudders as on the RS Zest, which use kind of like a version of the Hobie rudder system. I haven't got a cam in there, which have got like a cam which it locks into to hold the rudder down, but not quite as what would you say, not quite as beefy as on the Hobies, which means that it would be, for this type of boat, it is absolutely fine, built for purpose. Very nice. Then what else have I got in my notes about this? And then the tiller connecting bar is coming from the rudders. I've got a little bit of direction here, is actually forwards of the main sheet. So it's designed so that we've got the rudder, and then from the rudder comes the tiller, and the tiller extends forwards of the connecting bar. So the connecting bar would be more like here. So it's designed so you actually hold here like the tiller of a traditional boat, so you don't have to worry about the tiller extension. Very similar, and in fact the whole boat very similar to a Hobie Wave in its dimensions and probably how quick it would be, and I would say everything about it quite similar to the Hobie Wave. But the main difference here between the RS and the Hobie is the RS has got this very sporty modern look where, you know, I don't want to get on the wrong side of any wave sailors, but I think the look of the Hobie Wave is kind of looks a little bit dated now. Does that make it classic? Probably yes. But yeah, so I think the guys at RS have looked at the Hobie Wave and thought, how can we take this design and make it better? So it's like the evolution of the Hobie Wave, although they wouldn't admit that, I'm sure, because it's all their own work. But having this go forwards a bit gives a nice handle to hold on to for the helming. It's on the website, it says it's 60 kilograms hulls platform, which means the whole weight of the whole thing would be about 70 kilograms, which would make it very light and easy to handle on the beach on a trolley. But if you haven't got a trolley, then if the beach is quite like, if you've got a sandy beach, you'll be able to just drag it out of the water because we've got the plastic hulls. All right, what else on this list? Yeah, so easy to manage on the beach, very easy to get the sails up because the sails are quite small. On the actual specifications that I found, it said that the mainsail was just 6.5 square meters, which is very small, which means you're not going to find much speed from this boat unless it is windy, or unless you're sailing with very lightweight sailors on board. So if you're trying to sail this boat with two adults with such a small sail, has got a jib as well, but that's even smaller, of course, it's not going to be very quick. And the sail, albeit being that small, no boom, no need for that. It's actually got 2 reefing points, which means we can reduce the mainsail to a sail area of very little, which means for like kids learning to sail a catamaran for the first time, it is absolutely perfect to have such a small sail on the boat there. All right, what else have I got? Capsize recovery. I would wager it would be pretty easy because we've got the masthead float. We've got a very lightweight rig, which means that the boat would come up quite easily. I would guess you'd probably need, with zero wind, about 60 kilos of weight on the boat to pull it up from capsized with zero wind. And then as we get more wind, the same with all different types of boat, is as we get more wind, it becomes actually easier to bring the boat upright from capsized. Stiffness, probably not the stiffest boat in the boat park, but no less stiff than a Hobie Wave. Weight carrying capacity. Yeah, it did look in the pictures like this section of the hull is very wide, which means you could probably sail this with 3, maybe even 4 kids on board, or 2 adults. But again, unless it was windy, I wouldn't be looking for those high speeds due to the small rig on this boat. But it will take the weight. Speed, probably maximum speed, about, I don't know, depends who's sailing it and how much wind you throw at it. If RS want to give me one here to see how fast it will go, I will gladly take it for a send. See, it's got a single trapeze, so you could helmet on the trapeze, but you would need to fit a tiller extension to be able to do that. Tacking is going to be pretty easy. And what else we got? Yeah, so that's all on Iggy's list. One other thing that I did notice is the bows on the boat, probably quite low volume. So I'd say it's not going to be completely immune to digging the nose in. And the mast's quite far forwards as well, which yeah, so it might be quite easy to dig the nose in on this. But of course, without actually sailing the boat, this is all just speculation. But I think very, very easy to sail. She's got a modern sporty look, a furling jib. What else haven't I said yet? Low volume bows, lots of volume further back, and a mast head float, 12 feet long. Very nice. Yeah, I think if this is what you're into, if you've got sailing school and you want to get some kids into cat sailing, looks like a really good choice. Okay, back to the live chat. We've got Sigitas from Lithuania. Great to have you on board. Always nice to have somebody new in the live chat. Apologies if you have been in the live chat before, but it's nice to have somebody that I think is new anyway. All right, Jochen says, I have a question. Could you talk about the humming sound coming from the rudders at higher speed? How and why is it generated? Yes. All right. So, yeah, there's different types of noise that you get off the rudders on the boat. Basically, depends on what the construction of the rudders is. So, if you've got either carbon or fiberglass rudder blades, which are a bit more refined, quite lightweight, you're more likely to get, if you're getting noise from the rudder blades, you're more likely to get a high pitched noise coming from those bad boys. Whereas if you're sailing a boat with heavier, more durable kind of like the more beginner type boats, or if you've got a Hobie 16 with the Lexan rudder blades, or any Hobie for that matter, where the rudder blades are heavy and very solid lumps of material, then you're more likely to get a low pitched noise, which can actually attract whales who start chasing you. Never actually known this to happen, but it could. So if we look at our rudder blade profile like this, and let's zoom in on the back of the rudder blade. So this is direction of travel. Here we go. So what happens is your trailing edge of the rudder blade, if it comes to a very fine point, is going to vibrate as we start going faster. And that vibration, yeah, I'm not entirely, it's going to create noise, but is the noise, you know, this is one for the science department, is the noise actually coming from the rudder blade, or is it actually because the rudder blade is then connected to the hull, and the hull is a big, basically acoustic chamber, like a big box, where this vibration, the noise from that vibration, is going to get amplified inside the hull, which is going to make it seem louder. If I think if we shoved a load of towels or something, or if there was no air inside the hull somehow, then would we still have this effect? Probably not. So the cause is this vibration coming from the trailing edge. If you're sailing a boat which has dagger boards as well, or centerboards like a Formula 18, then it's quite likely you're going to get even more of this vibrating noise because of the dagger boards as well. Like when we started racing Hobie Tigers back in the 90s, at the first Europeans that I did, it was pretty noisy at times because it was windy and all these boats absolutely hammering it. That's quite a lot of noise. But what you can do to reduce the amount of noise is to reduce this fine point at the back. So if we go even more zoomed in, so the back edge of the rudder blade or the dagger board might be a fine point like this. Whereas if we can just give it a light this is a light sanding on the back. All we want to do is take the point and just square it off, because then that slightly wider edge isn't going to vibrate and it's less likely to create this noise. And of course, this noise, when you hear it, all this going on at the back, that's going to create some sort of drag. So if you are trying to get your boat going as fast as possible, like if you're racing or going for a big speed, then it is going to slow you down. So it is worth just taking that point off the trailing edge. What might make it worse as well is if you've got your rudder blade. This is yeah, it still looks like a rudder blade, and there are perhaps the odd chunk missing out of the trailing edge. This is going to affect things as well. So get your rudder blade in as good shape as possible. Now, just quickly on the note of chunks missing out of the trailing edge of the rudder blade. Now, the reason that you get these is when the rudder is in the up position, like this, if you absent-mindedly throw your tiller extension and it lands going onto the trailing edge of the rudder blade, unless you're lucky enough to have a very lightweight Melchesky Pro Joyrider tiller extension, it is going in. If you're not lucky, it is going to take a chunk out the trailing edge of the rudder blade. So just be very much aware that that is something that happens. So be careful. And another one, which is even worse, is if it's really windy, you're de-rigging your Hobie 16. This is quite specific, could be a 14, and you've dropped your mainsail and you're not supervising your mainsail when it's really windy. Your boom, which is attached to the sail, could get blown onto the trailing edge of the rudder blade and take a big chunk out of that bad boy. Cheers. Not hitting the hard stuff, not today. Okay. Yeah, so I hope that helps with some rudder hum or getting rid of. Okay, we've got Orsal Search. Great to have you with us. Felix is with us as well. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so Mark and Janet say, could you speak on the advantages / disadvantages of the Hobie 16 Aussie Jib Halyard versus the legacy Jib Halyard system on a Hobie 16? All right, so just so you know what we're talking about, on either version of the Hobie 16 Jib Halyard, you should have these are our blocks. So what, oh gosh, it's when you forget what things look like, 'cause it's been a little while. So yeah, this is where the jib attaches onto this block. So that attaches there with a shackle. This is the jib here, and then so I'm kind of thinking on my feet here, just a little. It's been a little while and since I've been so this would be the jib halyard, which comes to the mast. We'll get onto the Aussie bit in a second, and then from there the jib halyard rope would go around a sheave here, around a sheave here, and then it would tie off here. So that would be the standard jib halyard that we have. So let's just draw in those sheaths, kind of like that. Yeah. Okay, so the legacy, the old fashioned, the standard old school system would be for that to then, if we draw in our mast, it's actually exactly the same as the system that is still current on the Hobie 15, incidentally. And that would be the halyard comes down and try to remember where this cleat was. On the 15, it's on the front of the mast. This is what we call a horn cleat. So basically the halyard comes down and it will tie off on a horn cleat on the mast, and that is it. That so that is what gives us the tension in the jib halyard, which gives us our rig tension on the boat. Yes, we can get enough rig tension with the old-fashioned non-Aussie system jib halyard, and we do it by using a technique which we would do with the Aussie style as well, which is called sweating the halyard, which is a technique that comes from old-fashioned ships, like tall ships, where if you've got the halyard running down the mast here, like running down here, you grab the halyard and you actually pull it out from the mast, and that gives you loads of leverage. So you pull it out from the mast and then you take up the slack around the bottom of the cleat, maybe do that a couple of times. And what we're looking for with the rig tension is in lighter winds, we want it tighter so that our mast is more upright and it doesn't fall away to leeward. And then as it gets windier, we don't need quite as much jib halyard rig tension on these types of boats. Now, the more modern design, which has been in Europe anyway, it's been the standard system on Hobie 16s, I believe, since, gosh, must be about 2003, is we've got a block on the mast here, and then we've got a block on the side of the mast, and then we've got a cam cleat, kind of like the same sort of cleat that you'd have on a main sheet or a jib sheet. And then we've got our horn cleat here for extra security. So as well as having this purchase system here, the jib halyard then goes down around this block here. Then it goes around this block on the side, through the cam cleat, and then we just finish it off by tying it off on the horn cleat, because that is much more reliable than just tying it off, than just having it in the cam cleat there. But the cam cleat is really useful because as you're pulling on more tension, it's very easy just to pull the rope through this cleat and it will grip it, and it just makes it so much easier. So advantages with this system is it is so much easier. That is the first thing, and probably the main point. It is so much easier to get more tension on, and makes it much easier to adjust. If you want to adjust a small amount, it is, you know, everything about it easier just to get that small amount more tension on. Or if you want to let a little bit of tension off, because you've got these extra bits of resistance when you're loosening it, it does make it so much easier. What you can do, in fact, when you're loosening it, is untie the rope off the cleat here, feed through the amount of rope you want to loosen here while it's still gripped in the cam cleat, and then you can tie it off on the horn cleat again, and then release it from the cam cleat, and that means you're not going to let off too much, so it does make it much easier. What are the downsides of this upgrade? The main downside of it is you're going to have to drill some holes in your mast, and every time you drill a hole in your mast, it is another opportunity for your mast to leak if you were to capsize. So if you are going to fit more stuff to your mast, you just have to do a really good job on sealing where you're putting these fittings. What Hobie Cat use, I don't know about the other manufacturers, is when you're putting a pop rivet into the mast, if this is the rivet like this, there's the bit that you pull with your rivet gun. You actually have what Hobie call a top hat, which is a completely sealed, what would you call it, like a cylinder. So that goes into the mast first. You put some sealant round here as well. So if that would be your hole in your mast there, that goes in. And then when you put the rivet in, it makes it, in theory, completely watertight. But that is the main downside of fitting this system, is it puts more holes in the mast, because this block here and this block here both take 4 rivets. The cam cleat, 2 big screws, and then you've probably already got a cleat on the side of the mast that you'll be able to use. So there you go. All right. So that is what I think on this topic. All right. So yeah, Leland Lee says, yes, definitely worth the upgrade. I did it and have never looked back. Make sure you do the tension cleat as well. Tension cleat or tension cleat, one or the other. All right. So we've got Benjamin on board. Hi there. Nice to have you with us. Hanny's off. See you, Hanny. Have a nice weekend. All right. Lee says also, like how the jib halyard hums when you get enough speed going. Once I hear it, I try and keep it going because that lets you know you're going fast. Yeah, sometimes this high-pitched noise that you hear might not even be coming from the rudders. It might be coming from the rigging vibrating as it cuts through the air. Yeah. All right. Benjamin says, can you use any aluminium rivet or should it be some marine rivets? Yeah, with because these fittings take a huge amount of load, so it does need to be the inox or stainless steel marine quality rivets on these sort of fittings, just because of the amount of load that they're under. There are certain places on the boat where you can get away with using aluminium rivets, where the rivet is just stopping out or something, but isn't actually under any load. But all of the rivets that go in stainless steel or inox, it's the same thing. Put it in the comments. Is it the same thing? I think it's the same thing, just different names. But because we're putting inox stainless steel into aluminium, it does mean that where it joins, where it touches, we have to use like a barrier paste to stop there from being some sort of chemical reaction that can eat away the aluminium of the mast. So do pay attention to that as well. All right, Benjamin continues. How do you seal the holes in the mast? Just with standard silicone? Yeah. So with I prefer to use, like, it really is worth spending a bit, and the silicone's not expensive. It's like 20 for a big tube, like 20 euros or something for Sikaflex, which I'm under the impression that is the best that you can get for the marine applications. And it is worth getting the good stuff, not like bathroom sealant, which just doesn't give you the same level of confidence. Because what you absolutely don't want is a leaky mast. Because if you haven't got a masthead float and you capsize, your boat goes completely upside down, and there is some sort of hole where water can get in, it gets in a lot quicker than you'd expect and can make it almost impossible to bring your boat back upright without assistance from a powerboat. So definitely maximum effort on sealing the mast. But like I said, use these kind of top hat things. It's, I think, yeah, the top hats, if I can, it's basically like that, like the lid of a pen, but made from inox with a bit of a lip around it. And then the rivet actually goes inside. So this forms a seal. But then if you seal that in as well with some sealant, you really are doing everything you can to stop your mast from leaking. All right, we've got Bernhard on board. Hello, Bernhard. Great to have you with us as always. Okay, so I've got some next question in the preloaded. This one's coming from Dan Williams. All right, who says, all right, this is a tough one actually. How old were you when you won your first sailboat race? Yeah, difficult to know really, but I started sailing catamarans when I was around, I don't know, 12 years old, something like that. And I started off on the Dart 18. And most of the racing I was doing was what is called club racing, which is just most sailing clubs that have an active fleet of boats have either 1 or 2 days with racing going on every week. And I definitely won some of the club racing probably when I was about 14 or so. And a lot of it was more down to luck than judgment, I think. I was, apart from the sheer amount of hours I was spending on the water at that age, looking back, I wouldn't have said I was particularly good at the actual racing part. The boat handling, I was very good at because I was doing so much of it, but the actual racing part, perhaps not so good at that point. So did win a few club races back at that time. But the first actual race that I won, like aside from club racing, you know, I still couldn't actually say when that was in a major competition in the 2006, I think it was 6 round Texel race, sailing with a friend of mine, Tim. We won the Tiger class in the round Texel race, but that was, you know, not gonna lie to you, that was because we didn't register for Formula 18. If we'd have registered for Formula 18, we wouldn't have won that class. But because we didn't register, we were entered as a Hobie Tiger rather than Formula 18, and we won the class. Great. Yeah, but you know, not that many victories in my career as a catamaran sailor, but certainly plenty of time on the race course. But there's always been someone quicker. Yeah. Oh, in fact, a really good one that I did win was the first ever. It's called the Kent Forts race in UK, down in the southeast of the UK. It's a long distance race, much like Texel, but racing around some old sea forts. Did the first one with my Dart 18, and we were the only team there where the boat was actually older than the people sailing it. And we absolutely smashed it. Very light wind. And from start to finish, we completely dominated and won the slow handicap class of that race. Very nice too. Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. That is yeah, it's a bit sad, really, looking back and thinking, what race have you? Not that many, actually. So why are we listening to this guy? Because he's here talking about it. That is why. And I certainly have been teaching catamaran sailing for a very long time. If I have to qualify myself as being a worthy person to be giving out this information. And perhaps the lack of good results on the race course led me into pursuing fast sailing and this sort of GPS speed sailing more, because I have reached a high level in that discipline more so than the actual race course stuff. There we go. All right. Lynn and Pete say, congratulations, Texel wins are a big deal. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. I'll take that. Yes, I will. All right. So next question from Dan is, have you ever ice boated? No, never been on an ice boat, and I would absolutely love to. If you haven't seen the ice boats, they are so quick. I think we're talking, what, 70 knots, something like that, of boat speed, because there is actually zero friction between the I don't know what you call the things that the blades that they slide on and the ice. Zero friction. How are you going to stop? I don't know, but very quick. Yes, love to try. Dan continues, the feeling of a Hobie trifoiler cornering is similar to that of an ice boat cornering, but slightly less G-force. Yes, I have sailed the Hobie trifoiler, and yes, that thing was an absolute beast. So very quick. The first actual, I think it was actually the first production foiling boat that anybody built. There we go. Little claim to fame for Hobie there. All right. So if has anybody in the live chat got any further questions? Otherwise, I think we have reached the finish line. Yeah. So in this bit of time here, I can announce have got a video coming out on Sunday. It's already available to channel members, of course. Yeah, new video coming on Sunday. And the topic of this video, we're going next level. This is tacking and jibing from the trapeze. So initiating the maneuvers while still out on the trapeze. Now, the tacking aspect is something that could become quite useful if you just wanted to keep the power on literally until the last moment before you tack, because you're on the trapeze literally until you push the stick away from you. Whereas the jibing aspect is probably a little bit more for show. And if you were actually in a competitive situation, would you want to take the risk of going into a jibe while you're still out on the trapeze? Maybe not, because thrills and spills are on the cards with jibing from the trapeze. Oh yes, they are. So there we go. That is coming on Sunday. Anything else exciting? Yeah, I think for those of you who've made this till the end, I can announce this now. I've been working on very hard, I could say, been working on brand new totaljoyrider.com website. Oh yeah. And it is going to be absolutely cooking. On this website is going to be all of what I would consider to be the useful videos from Joyrider TV, and they will be absolutely beautifully presented, very easy to find what you're looking for. So that is a very exciting prospect for me, but it's taken a lot more time than I thought it would, because I want to get it right, which I feel is important. So on that note, I think I could get back to a bit of work on that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to everybody for watching later. If you've made it to the end, then I'd like to think that you thought that this is somewhat useful. So do hit the like button if you've liked it. If you're not yet subscribed, then subscribe. Another question just come in from Derek. Hello, Derek. Could you explain rudder stall? Yes, I can. Let's do that. All right. So I don't know what I'm going to draw just yet, but what rudder stall is it's generally something that only happens when you're going at speed. And if we kind of look, I could have kept a picture of the rudder blade up, but if we look down the rudder blade, what we get is basically an air pocket on one side of the rudder blade. So yeah, if this is where the pressure is, so we've got more pressure. In fact, if the boat is kind of here, and we're sailing on this tack. So this is the leeward rudder blade. This side of the rudder is going to have loads of pressure on it. And because it's being pushed against the water, we're going to have a good flow of water on that side. But what happens sometimes, and I'll explain why it happens, is on this side of the rudder blade, we get separation, which creates like an air pocket on this side. So basically the rudder stops gripping. And what it feels like, there's a few feelings that you get, but it feels like the boat just suddenly slows down massively, as if you had thrown a bucket off the back. That's the kind of feeling that you get. The second thing that rudder stall does for you is because we're getting all of this load at the back of the boat, we're getting some sort of lift from the rudder blade, like masses of upwards lift, like a foiling boat almost, which forces the bows down. So when the rudders stall, you'll feel the boat slow down suddenly, and that will force the bows of the boat down. What I would usually be concerned about when feeling rudder stall sailing fast as well is when it happens, it puts the rudder blade under much more load. So then we've got the added risk that the rudder might kick up because of the amount of load on the rudder blade there. So that is kind of what rudder stall is and how it feels when it comes. But if your rudders stall when you're trying to sail fast, it's going to slow you down massively. Now, why do we get rudder stall? It all comes down to tuning your rudders. Have we got anything? Yeah, this could be a rudder. So if this is the rudder looking straight on to the back of the boat, so this is something to check while the boat is on the beach. Put the boat on the trolley, put the bow of the boat on the floor so you can put the rudders down on land. And then if the rudder blade is allowed to move from side to side like this, then that is something which could lead to rudder stall when you start hitting the high speeds. So how do you get rid of this movement? All right, few ways we could do it, but basically we want to make sure that the rudder blade in here can't go side to side. So what we could do, what I've done in the past, which has been very effective, more difficult to do with these closed castings like you get on a Hobie 16 or 14, but on the open castings like you might have on a Hobie 18, Hobie Tiger, something like that, or other types of catamaran, is to actually take some rubber, like, what would you call it? It's called Pro Grip, this kind of rubber, which is basically just like rubber mat, and then glue it actually to the inside of the rudder stock. So when the rudder blade is down, it sits really snugly in there. I'd say that is the best solution that we can do for stopping the rudder from going side to side. And it's very kind for your rudder blades. The next best thing you can do is put in some shims, which are basically like washers. So if I've got anything that I can, here we go. Or actually, better still, Joyrider business card. Oh yes. So with the shims, you basically plastic disc. You can make your own plastic discs to use as shims if you use, you know, you get the packaging material that you might get a USB stick in or a cable, this plastic that's really difficult to open. This works very nicely as shims. This would be the thinner shims if you've only got a bit of space to take up, but you're going to make one for each side on each rudder blade, make it circular, and then drill a hole through the middle where the bolt is going to go, and they're just going to fit in the sides there, either side of the rudder blade. You could use other types of plastic container if you've got more space that you need to fill out. So at the thickest, you could use like a detergent container, this sort of plastic, very good. Anything like that, cut a disc out of that, drill a hole through it, and get those shims in there. And then make sure that the bolt that goes through the rudder blade is tight enough so that the rudder can still move up and down, but it's a very fine bit of tuning on that bolt, because if it's too loose, the rudder will go up and down very easily, but it will move from side to side. If it's too tight, no, it won't move side to side, but it will be really hard to get the rudder up and down. So it's like literally a quarter of a turn difference between it being right and too loose or too tight. So that is what is going to create feel, and that is what's going to solve your rudder stall issues. Of course, make sure with your rudder that the rudder blade can't move backwards as well. That isn't going to create rudder stall. That is just going to create heavy steering. And heavy steering by the rudder blade moving backwards is basically going to make all the other effects of your rudder's imperfections seem so much worse. There we go. So I hope that helps there, Derek. Thanks for the question. We've managed to keep this session going a bit longer. Okay, we got Zach on board. Great to have you with us, Zach. Oh, Benjamin says, look forward to the new website. Yeah, not as I'm looking forward to it, perhaps even more, because when it goes live, it means I've finished. There we go. Zach's catching the 30 minutes on a lunch break. Hit the like button for the win. Nice. Iggy's on board. Iggy, who asked the questions about the RS Cat 12. All right. Glad that you caught it live, Iggy. Nice one. All right. Jesse says, I'm really enjoying your videos. I hope to put some of your knowledge to use in the spring. Oh, yes. So something to do over the winter is watch as many videos on Joyrider TV as possible. It's going to help a lot. All right. All right. We've got Office Hands Dave on board. Hi, Dave. Nice to have you on board as always. Dave says, in America, you can get ready-made shims from soda pop cup tops at QT, Sheets, or Raceway big gulp type lids. I'm sure if you're in America, you'd know exactly what that meant. Thanks for that, Dave. Yeah, maybe when you come out to Greece the next time, or when I come to America, I will see if I can find some. All right, we've got Black Sheep 18 on board in Florida. I have my first clear mylar sail. Nice. Any tips to keep it clean and clear for many years to come? All right. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. I would say the best thing you can do to keep mylar clear is maybe it's definitely worth washing it regularly. Like, make sure you don't allow any kind of salt buildup. So if you've gone sailing and the mylar part of the sail, mylar is this kind of clear sailcloth that is really nice when it's new. You can really see through it, but it goes kind of milky. So you can kind of see through it as it gets older. But if you get salt water on it, make sure you wash it. Perhaps wash it with soapy water occasionally. If you're not going to go sailing for a bit. So if you've gone sailing for the weekend, but you know it's going to be a month until you go sailing the next time, then wash it with some soapy water just to make sure that it is completely salt free and as clean as possible. Keep it out of the sun as much as you can. So like if you've got your sails on the boat rolled up, just sitting there for a day because you're waiting for the wind or something, they're still getting that UV, which is basically going to degrade your mylar, and that is going to accelerate this aging process. So keep it out of the sun, I would say, is as much as you can. That's a good tip there. All right. So, yeah, I hope that helps. All right. Vinicius is with us. He's in Brazil. He's got Hobie 14. Great stuff. I hope you're getting some good action. I would absolutely love to come to Brazil to do some events. It looks like in the Hobie fleets in Brazil, you get some very good numbers. A lot of boats turning out for these races. Would be absolutely amazing to get involved. Bernhard says, we watch your videos every winter. Great stuff. That is obviously why you're progressing so well. Great job. All right. So Office Hands Dave says, I read an old rudder tuning article that said the rudders should fall to 45 degrees when released from stowed. That way, when you launch from the beach, you can steer in shallow water till it's deep. Yeah, I'd go along with that. So when you unlock the rudder, there's the rudder, it drops to about there and then just needs a push to get it that last little bit. So when adjusting the bolt that holds the rudder blade. Okay, Venetius says, is it possible to lower the sail of a Hobie 14 in the wind on the water alone? And is there any way to sew a sail Rizzo? You have to explain what you mean by Rizzo there. But yes, you can definitely drop your sail on the water, even while you're out sailing. Because what happens even if it's windy, is stop your boat by turning into the wind, and then you're going to need to go towards the front of the boat a bit with the Hobie style locking system. You'll have to go like to the bow of the boat, like here, to get the halyard out of the lock. But by going up here, it means if the boat is tempted to go forwards, it's automatically going to sail up into the wind. So basically, if you're on the bows of the boat, with the boat stopped, it's not going to be able to bear away from the wind. It's always going to steer up towards the wind. So yes, you can definitely drop the sail of the boat while on the water. The most tricky bit is actually securing it once it's down. So securing the halyard, what I've started doing when I'm dropping it on the water is actually taking the rope part of the halyard through the cleat at the bottom of the mast, then back up through the wire part, through the wire loop in the halyard. So through there, and then tying it off to the cleat, because that means you don't have to undo the shackle on the water. Of course, when you undo a shackle on the water, there's a pretty good chance you're going to drop it, and then you're going to have to get another shackle. That's a pain. So leave the shackle done up until you get back onto the beach, and then you can roll the sail up from the bottom around the boom, which is going to stop the sail from flying away as well. There we go. That is what I would do. Okay. We have got Marty on board in Switzerland. He's everybody's favorite Swiss Kiwi. he moved to Switzerland so that he could watch the live Q&As on Joyrider TV at a more civilized time of day than in New Zealand. It says, got my 15mm wetsuit ready for a bit of November sailing, but it's bloody difficult to squeeze under the boom. Any tips? Yeah. I think everybody finds this. If you're used to sailing, like if you're used to some champagne sailing in the Greek islands, just wearing a pair of shorts and a rash vest, then when you have to put a wetsuit on, you feel that bit more bulky. Yeah, slows you down a bit, makes it more difficult to move around. Same when you're used to sailing, perhaps in a regular wetsuit, and then the winter is coming and you have to wear a thick wetsuit like that, then yes, you're going to feel a lot of bulk. I'd say the only solution to this, if you've got the wetsuit that you're going to use and that's the one that you're going with, is the more that you do it, the more natural it is going to feel. That's the only thing. The only solution to this is to get just hanging up back here. This is the forward whip semi-dry suit. Very nice. So the top part is a dry suit and the legs are a wetsuit. Best of both worlds. Now, you may ask, why is having the leg part wetsuit the best of both worlds? Why not just a whole dry suit? Because what the wetsuit material does for you, and you can see just there where there's that bit of white shape there, that is actually extra padding, and it gives you more impact protection by having the lower part of the suit as a wetsuit rather than the whole thing as a dry suit. So the top part, dry suit, means that your arms are still free like they would be in a dry suit. You can just layer up underneath, but the legs better for impact. There you go. That is what I think. All right. A Sail for Life. Who's that? Is that trying to think who Sail for Life is? It's somebody that I know. All right, JD Murray. Hello, Sail for Life, by the way. But Sail for Life says, why no dry suit? It's a good question. JD Murray says, my Hobie 14 turbo jib was destroyed in Hurricane Helene. I can't find a replacement with the window. Do you have any suggestions for replacement? Yeah, that's a tough one. So I'm guessing you must be in the US of A. I would first port of call would be, if you want to go original, talk to the guys at Murray's in San Diego, California. They have definitely got the best stock of Hobie equipment in the US, as far as I know. Or the other thing you could do is have a chat with my friend Chip at Whirlwind Sales, also in California. And the Hobie 14 turbo jib is pretty small, which means it shouldn't be too expensive. Yeah, so there you go. All right, so we've got on board Whale Nicks. Is that Whale Nicks? Wally Nicks? Nice to have you with us anyway. Thoughts on installing hatches on a Hobie 16? Round, rectacular, front, back, compromise hull integrity, risk. I'd have to ask first, what would be the reason to install hatches in the first place? Is the reason to install the hatches because you need to do some repair to the sidewall of the hulls and you need to get inside? That would be, in my opinion, the only valid reason to install hatches. If you want to get hatches in the hulls because you want to store stuff in them, I would say don't do it. It's not worth cutting a decent hole in your hull for storage. You're better off getting some sort of dry bag that you can clip to the trampoline. Yes, it's going to make a little bit more something to avoid on the trampoline, or you could even, if it's for storage, I'm kind of guessing it's for storage. If this is the front beam, there's your dolphin striker. You could even, with a little bit of head scratching, because you've got all this height here above the water, something that goes underneath the trampoline for storage on a 16. Yeah, storage. Yeah, I wouldn't. Just because cutting a hole in the boat, there's always risk that if your boat didn't leak before, there is a new place where it could leak. And if your hull is stiff, not worth it. That's my opinion. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to wrap that up there. If you could hit the like button before you leave, and see you on Sunday for the new video. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for staying till the end. That's nice. And I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon. Thank you.